The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Hello and welcome back to the show. In this short Empathy Expansion Kit episode, we are covering the topic of how to systemize empathy in your business. I'm Steven Sakach here with Tullio Siragusa. Hey, Tullio.
Good to be back.
So we're talking about systemized empathy. So really what we're talking about here goes into kind of the heart of our Bliss concept. So build love into scalable systems. Empathy and love are especially critical when your business starts to grow, because this is where your culture starts to get stressed and processes that were once personal and human-centered start to feel the growing pains, right? So the next part of the stage is building systems when you're growing. And so it's vitally important that you consider empathy in this stage of your business, because you're now about to systemize things. So Tullio, what do we mean by systemized empathy? That's it, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, empathy can be used as a tool to deal with conflict or solve a problem, as we discussed in the past, to apologize or understand something. In design thinking, it's a great tool for really understanding the customer and sympathizing with them and creating solutions that meet not only their transactional needs, but their emotional needs. But systemizing empathy, that's a whole nother level. That's actually, we're talking about integrating empathy into the core operations, into systems, into processes of how the business operates and how the people within the business operate. So it's about creating consistent, repeatable ways to demonstrate empathy across all touch points, from customer service to employee management. This is a big undertaking, a major shift in consciousness, really. It goes beyond individual acts of kindness. It's really creating frameworks and guidelines and tools that ensures empathy is consistently applied across the organization. It's a massive undertaking. Don't know many organizations that have been successful at it, but those who do it see incredible results from that.
Yeah, there's definitely very few that are taking this approach, but it is this next level consciousness that you're not just relying on those individual random acts of kindness that some great person in your company, brings to the work they do. It's now like, hey, how could we all do this as just a practice and part of our routines? So, and we want to do this, yes, because it's good. It's the right thing to do, right? But, I know we've all got the people out there that need data and things like that. And we have given lots of stats on the ROI of adding empathy to different parts of your business. We've covered that in just many, episode after episode. But in the broader sense, what are we talking about here that you'll see in your business? So obviously, one of the first things you think about is the impact on customer satisfaction, right? So a business with this systemized empathy can provide more consistent and positive customer experience. And that leads to what? It leads to higher satisfaction and loyalty, but it also turns them into that brand ambassador. You've made this emotional connection with them, and they love you so much that they're going to be some of your best marketers for you. So it really takes you to the next level. Tullio, what other positive impacts will people see just by taking this approach?
Yeah, and I think you said something really key about systemizing this across the business, because every company's got that one person, Emma or John. If there's a problem, let's get them involved. They're really good at empathizing with the customer, right? But this goes beyond those key individuals. It's about making everyone empathetic. So it's from a company culture, this has a tremendous impact on its people, because it helps build a very positive, a very inclusive company culture where every employee feels valued and understood. And this can lead to higher employee engagement and retention. Imagine everyone acts with empathy towards each other. No one will lack anything, or at least feel like they need to express that lack, because they can just openly discuss whatever the needs are. And it plays a big role in business growth and resilience too. So when empathy is a systemic part of the business, it becomes easier to scale without losing the human touch that customers and employees value. I mean, what helped you get to where you are, unless you continue, should be able to help you to get to where you want to go. But often what happens is where you want to go, you lose what got you where you are. So that's not a good recipe. So the importance of systemizing empathy is to build resilience. It helps the business adapt to times of change and even in crisis. So it's key to ensuring long-term viability and sustainability for the business. But it's also really good for people because people will feel like they're heard, and it's creating growth opportunities. Instead of just Emma and John, I'm just picking those names, being the most empathetic people on the team, everyone becomes empathetic and everyone can be counted on the similar way.
Yeah, I always say instead of just like one or two people carrying the torch, now you've got 20, 30, 100 people carrying the torch, and so you're going to shine much brighter because of that. So
Absolutely.
So how do we go about infusing empathy and love in our business system? So the first thing that I think of is basically audit your systems. We recently did a series on where we looked at system failures of businesses, and it's like you could see where these problems happened in there just by auditing their systems after the scandal. And it's like, okay, they have problems just waiting to happen, and they weren't addressing it. And so that would be the one place to start, is audit your system. It doesn't matter how big or how small that system is. Like, anyone can do this. If I'm working at one particular part of my company, obviously I'm working in some kind of systems, and I can see one little tweak that I would make in there. Hey, if we could just do this, this would put a little more empathy, a little more love into what I do. Then what happens is you move on to like the next little tweak you can make. And so little by little makes a lot here. And so it's just like Tullio talked about, this can be a huge undertaking, but that's why it's like, you got to have anyone in your company able to do this and make a little suggestion here and there. And that's how you start tackling this beast, is just little bit by little bit at a time. So one of the other perspectives you can take too is just have empathy for the different stakeholders, right? So right now we're talking about considering the customers or the employees, but also, what about your vendors? What about your community? What about your investors? Consider how you can interact with them and build a little more empathy into those different areas of your business. And then really too, it's very helpful if you can get leadership commitment from this. Like, you can do these little things in your own systems in your part of the business, but once you can kind of sell this in with leadership, and then they can start understanding the importance of them modeling, that empathy and being committed to it, then it just starts taking over, in all places in your business. You get training, you get regular communication, they start setting the example, and everyone starts getting more and more involved in it, and you end up building momentum here. Tullio, how else can people tackle this particular challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it could be like trying to go up an unclimbable mountain. If you look at it, like this big behemoth challenge, but you could do it in chunks, as you mentioned. Like, for example, implementing empathy-driven protocols in customer service. Take customer service and put some protocols in place on how to better handle customer care. Train people on, how to respond in a way that's loving consistently. Have HR policies that support this in your product development. The big question is, how can we create a product that shows love and care in marketing, and in creating guidelines that encourage empathetic listening and being responsive and solving problems with empathy. You can gamify it within the organization. You can create recognition models for an empathy moment, so it becomes part of something that people strive to do ongoing. Also, creating feedback loops is important. Establish regular feedback from customers, with employees, to understand their needs and experiences. And that's the key thing, is don't just understand their transactional needs, but the experience that they're having and what experience they want to be having. And then use this feedback to refine and improve the systems. This ensures that you always have alignment with empathy. And then finally, the other thing is to consider the role of technology and tools, using CRM system and AI. AI can be a great tool that can gather insights, personalize interactions, ensure empathetic communications at scale. For example, one of our guests that we had, actually our very first featured guest we had on the podcast was the Gloria, the CEO of leantime.io. They're a good example of a project management tool that understands the needs of the people involved, right? So AI can help with empathizing messaging, emails, internal communication, even if you have to communicate difficult things. So these are all things that make it a lot easier today to systemize implementing empathy across the organization.
Yeah, and I think as kind of society grows and we all become more empathetic, you're going to see more and more of this tech out there for you that you can deploy to your business, just like we've talked about with our AI Chief Marketing Officer, where we're really taking your higher purpose and trying to infuse that higher purpose into your advertising. So yeah, check that out, aicmo.io. Get on the wait list. So building empathy and love into your business, it should not be left up to chance. I mean, like we said, it shouldn't be just that one person that comes to work and they're the ones carrying the torch. It's got to be deliberate. It's got to be, how can we impact this part of our business? Anyone can take initiative here. So if you move on from, say, one position of your company or your company altogether, it should be a lasting impact that you left. It should be some part of your legacy that you left is, hey, yeah, I added a little bit of love here in this business. And while you're away, it's going to be churning away, putting more good into the world. That's it for today's episode. Catch us again tomorrow as we are going to have a great conversation with our guests. We do it live, so join in, ask questions, and we will see you on the next Bliss Business Podcast.